Hi there and welcome to Films According to Chris Wyatt. Today, I give you the top 10 worst movies of 2016. I realize that this video is way overdue, but better late than never, right?
A lot of people have been saying that 2016 was a bad year for movies, though I disagree. I mean, 2016 was overall a crappy year, and I admit that the blockbuster scene was full of some letdowns, but aside from that, there were more than enough good, challenging, or just flat-out entertaining movies.
But that list comes later. Today, we're looking at the worst.
Also, I didn't see every movie that was allegedly the worst of this year, but I took in quite a few. But here are a few movies I did not see. And without further ado, here are the worst movies of 2016. Number 10. Now You See Me Too.
Of course, after watching this movie, I wish I hadn't seen it.
I wasn't a huge fan of the first Now You See Me, but I didn't mind it all that much either. This one, though, just plain sucked. The characters are shallow, empty, and totally annoying, the CGI leaves more than a bit to be desired, and the story this time is so ludicrous that it makes any kind of suspension of disbelief beyond impossible.
They really should have called these movies Magic by Douchebags, because that's pretty much what they are.
That's good. It's good to be positive despite making zero progress in a year.
Number 9. Allegiant.
This has become the most ironically titled movie in the Divergent series because, well, even the series' most devoted fans have pretty much jumped ship by now.
And if they didn't, well, this probably would make them. The Divergent movies have always been mediocre at best, unwatchable at worst, thanks to derivative, uninspired stories and bland characters, now complete with terrible effects and lame action scenes.
This movie bombed so hard that the fourth movie isn't even getting a theatrical release. That says it all right there.
I'm terrified.
Number 8. Norm of the North.
It's a Rob Schneider movie. Are you really surprised?
Annoying characters, an idiotic story, and ugly animation are all on display in what's easily the worst animated film of the year.
But again, it's a Rob Schneider movie. Do I really need to say anything more? Didn't think so.
Humans are moving here now. Look, from Florida.
Number 7. Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad earns a place on this list because it took a really awesome premise and screwed it up royally.
I can think of dozens of ways a film like Suicide Squad should have worked. And when you have a great premise, a great cast, and a talented director, there are no excuses. The story isn't well thought out, the movie doesn't do enough with its great characters, and the editing is an amateur hack job.
This was one of the most promising movies of 2016, which is why it's so disappointing. Of course, not as disappointing as the next entry on this list.
I'm just gonna hurt you. Really, really bad.
Number 6. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
You know what's depressing? Seeing two of your all-time favorite characters in such a terrible movie.
I have been a massive fan of both Batman and Superman since I can remember, so to see them in this shoddily directed film with a clumsy story, empty characters, uninspired acting, and a strong contender for the most annoying supervillain in film ever was just depressing. The dark and dour tone wasn't my preference, I admit, but if the film was even remotely competently made or engaging on some level, I would have been okay with all that.
At least Wonder Woman was kinda cool in it. Looks like the fate of all the DC movies is in her hands now.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
Number 5. Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk.
There are few things worse than a bad film made by a talented filmmaker.
And it's not just director Ang Lee who's brought down by this corny and overwrought attempt at a meaningful drama. A smattering of talented actors can't escape the movie's awfulness. Even if uplifting slices of Americana were in demand right now, the movie makes so many odd directorial and writing choices that I spent most of the movie asking, what is this crap?
For instance, actors Joe Alwyn and Kristen Stewart play brother and sister in this movie, though the acting decisions they made make them come off more like lovers. Yeah, things like that make the movie really weird and uncomfortable.
What really happened over there?
I did what I had to do.
Number 4. 9 Lives.
Meow, what we have here is easily, meow, the worst film of both Kevin Spacey and director Barry Sonnenfeld. Meow.
Again, I generally try not to pick on too many kids' films, but with all the talent behind and in front of the camera, it's hard not to take notice of something like 9 Lives. Kevin Spacey becomes a cat. This is the kind of premise that feels like it was from a parody trailer you would see on The Simpsons, Family Guy, or College Humor.
Christopher Walken is in the movie too, but this is far from his weirdest role or movie, so whatever. I guess that part doesn't actually bother me all that much.
But you're going to be stuck inside that cat.
Number 3. The Brothers Grimsby.
There is a scene in The Brothers Grimsby where both Sacha Baron Cohen and Mark Strong get by an elephant.
Again, there's a scene in this movie where they get by an elephant.
One more time in case you missed it. By an elephant.
Nobby? Oh my god.
Number 2. God's Not Dead 2.
Wouldn't be one of my worst of the year lists if there wasn't at least one bad religious movie on it.
To be fair, this movie isn't as atrocious as its predecessor, but that abomination set the bar so low that I can't perceive how a film could actually be any worse. I could deal with it being just a piece of heavy-handed proselytizing if it actually made some well-thought-out arguments, but it doesn't. Yet another movie where the big bad atheists go after the sweet, innocent Christians. Yeah, you know, I do believe there actually is an interesting argument to be made about religion in the modern world, but not like this.
And Ernie Hudson, why did you have to be in this, man? You're a Ghostbuster for crying out loud. I know you can do better.
You are out of order. I charge you with contempt.
I accept the charge.
And before we get to my number 1 pick, here are a few dishonorable mentions.
Everything you know is wrong. Black is white, up is down, and short is long. And everything you thought was just so important doesn't matter. Everything you know is wrong. Just forget the words and sing along. All you need to understand is everything you know is wrong.
And number 1. Passengers.
I realize this may seem like kind of an odd choice for number 1, but I can't think of any film that came out last year that made me more angry than Passengers.
It's got 2 great actors and decent technical execution, but it's brought down by a creepy and tone-deaf story posing as a feel-good crowd pleaser. To really get into why this movie fails so hard would require spoiling it. So if you want to know more, I did a full spoiler-filled review where I go more in depth.
I know there were a few people that liked this movie, but I really despise it.
There's a reason we woke up early.
Alright, thanks for watching. Let me know what your choices for the worst films of 2016 are by leaving me a comment below. And if you like what you saw and you want to see more, click subscribe and tune in soon for my choices for the best movies of 2016. See you next time.